After a few days in the Willamette Valley, we decided to take a trip out to the San Juan Islands. It was a 2-day journey to get out to the San Juans using the Amtrak Cascade Line and our bicycles. Our first overnight was in Seattle. In Seattle, we joined the memorial ride for one of the city's most unique bikie figures, Val Kleitz. Val had recently passed away from cancer, but he was a legend in Seattle's cargo bike scene, and it was obvious that he was sorely missed.
Today's cargo bike ride is in memorial for Val Kleitz, who was a real hero. You can see him here in a fedora, but most people who knew him or encountered him in Seattle typically saw him in a large leather cowboy hat. Years before there was anybody calling anything like a slow bike movement, Val was riding in day-to-day clothing, actually really unique and strange day-to-day clothing, but his own clothes, sometimes with a bullwhip. Val was one of the most knowledgeable mechanics that anybody here knows, and he's taught so many of the mechanics locally. But one of the things that was so beautiful about Val's contribution to cargo bikes was that he worked with so many people to hack onto their own bikes, making it so much more accessible than just buying an off-the-shelf bike, using something that you already have and a little bit of metalworking skills to turn your bike into a hauling bike.
He's basically our messiah. I mean, he's our godfather. He set the standard. He's superhuman, and that's why it's so shocking that he's lost, is because he just defied human possibilities.
So, just a couple of years ago, I was looking to do the Tour Divide again. When I was looking at doing it again, I wanted to do it on a 29er, so known Val for years, super nice guy. I shot him an email. I said, hey Val, looking at doing the Tour Divide, just curious if there's any possibility there. Val shows up about a week later on his cargo bike with a box. I'm like, holy crap, this is a bike. He's like, no, it's parts we had laying around in the warehouse. And I look at the invoice, 000. And anyhow, that's the kind of guy Val was. Didn't matter what you were riding. If you were on a bike, you were cool. And he never had any of that snobbishness. You get some of the people that if you're on a department store bike, you don't. It's like, no. And he was an absolute mechanical genius, but mostly he was just a hell of a nice human being.
So this bike was actually in part designed by Val Kleitz, the person who we're having the bike ride for today. And it's a Raleigh 20 from 1972. When we modernized it, we raised on the brake posts there for the V-brakes. And then Val had come up with this design for a cargo rack that's mounted with 2 posts here, typically on the down tube of a mountain bike. And then Hall & Collin, who makes trailers locally, came up with the idea that we could put it on this thing with a 20-inch wheelbase. It would be lower to the ground, closer to like a cycle truck. And then we thought, well, it's a folding bike, so why not preserve that? So the cargo platform is actually held on by quick releases. So I hope it's the world's only folding cargo bike.
The ride finally got underway, and it was an amazing sight to see every manner of bicycle taking to the Seattle streets. There was everything from extra cycles to long johns to 20-inch cargo bikes. Even Val's famous Dreadnought cargo bike was there on the ride. The ride ended in a picnic at a park where people celebrated Val's life and his contribution to Seattle's bike scene.